Of the resurgence of coronavirus cases around the nation, more and more people are looking to move to a cashless society. That means that fewer people worldwide are actually handling cash, and more are either using credit cards or debit cards, online shopping, or looking to use digital currencies. So joining us to discuss all of that, Boom Bust co-host and investigative journalist Ben Swan. All right, Ben, so tell us, why are so many people looking to get away from using cash? And what does that decline actually look like?
Yeah, so the initial thought, Manila, is that money is filthy, right? That if you are handling cash, it carries all kinds of germs on it because it passes from person to person. It's rarely, if ever, cleaned at all. And so this is a way of contracting coronavirus or contracting germs. That's kind of the initial thought about it. But the reality is, I'm not sure that really lines up with what's really going on. What's really happening is this, that since we've seen these lockdowns across the country and really around the world in so many places, what we're really looking at is this simple fact. Fewer and fewer people can go into a grocery store, can go into a barber shop, can go into a nail salon and pay for things with cash. If you're going to buy goods to get into your home, most of that shopping has shifted over to online. So right now, for instance, ATM usage is down 32% since the start of these lockdowns. Well, that's not really surprising because who's going to go to an ATM right now? And then also, according to Visa, about 63% of people are using less cash. But again, that's not surprising because you're not going out very much, and most of the products you're buying through e-commerce.
Well, I mean, that makes some sense. But in all honesty, how likely is it that people are actually contracting COVID from cash money? And I mean, in reality, isn't it just the case that everyone's moving to all things online?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. The chances that you're actually contracting COVID from money is very, very slim. What is happening is a lot of people are finding that they have to make purchases online, and that's creating kind of a series of issues and problems, including the fact that you have, so many people relying on just one or two big e-commerce giants. You know who I'm thinking of. Companies like Amazon, right, that essentially are sucking up all the oxygen in the room. Long term, that's very bad for the U.S. economy when mom and pop shops go out of business, small businesses can't survive, and one or two massive e-commerce giants kind of take over the whole space.
Yeah, and then selection. I mean, I know Amazon basically has everything, but there are some like niche items like you really got to go to a mom and pop shop to go get, right, Ben? So all of this cashless society, it can be convenient for us consumers, and it's certainly good for the banks and good for the credit card companies because they charge processing fees.
Yeah.
But it's not good for those small business owners like I just talked about, those merchants, right?
That's absolutely correct. Look, there's a huge misnomer here. This idea that if we move to a cashless society, that it's good for everyone, it's more convenient. It's not good, as you said, if you own a small business, because you're having to pay transaction fees of anywhere from 2 to 2.5% on those transactions that are called swipe fees. Every time someone swipes their card, whatever that transaction is, Visa, MasterCard, these giant payment processors are taking 2 to 2.5% of whatever was purchased. So that's a negative for those folks.
Yeah.
But there's also negatives, for instance, for people who are employees. So say that you work at a hotel, which right now is not getting much business anyways. But if you do and you're a valet, you're going to rely heavily on cash tips. Well, people who are in a cashless society aren't carrying cash around with them. So it's much harder for them to actually give tips to people who are reliant on that. And lastly, of course, you have people who just don't necessarily have access to these banking systems. And so they're at a loss as well.
Right. On that note, I mean, going cashless outside of, let's say, Bitcoin, not only does that remove any true privacy we have for our personal transactions, but it also disenfranchises a lot of poor people, homeless people who don't have access to banking or electronic services, right?
That's right. I mean, you have to remember that worldwide, there's a very large portion of people who remain unbanked in this world.
Yeah.
In the United States, it's obviously less, but worldwide, there's a lot of people who are not banked. That was part of the promise of cryptocurrency. As you said, Bitcoin, but all cryptocurrencies really try to provide a system by which the unbanked can be banked. They become their own bank and don't have to use these services. And cryptocurrencies being accepted by merchants, by the way, reduces significantly those processing fees. So I think more competition for payment processors. More competition for banks in this space, i.e. through cryptocurrencies, would be a huge help to consumers, small businesses, and everyone across the board.
Oh, Ben, we know how you feel about Bitcoin and other cryptos. We'll leave it right there. Our friend Ben Swan, thank you so much for that insight.